What's on the agenda for today?
Impromptus and I think we talked about these pieces there that I thought you could play.
You sure you're talking to me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these, when we were doing What do you think? If that sounds nice? In major and minor, it's a Serbian, or he's a Serbian composer, Marko Tajcevic.
Oh yeah, we did talk about some of those. I have that.
You got this?
I think so, yeah.
Oh yeah, I can play these, some of these to start. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, here we go with number 2. Harmonies can be amusing too, I think. This is typical. It's the same melody played twice and the accompaniment changes.
that 8 or 9? 8? Which one is it?
Oh, number 8.
That one I remember working on a little bit.
Oh, did you do that? Oh, well, anyway, these are atmosphere. Yeah, that's,
Is there another one similar to that one that you just played?
no, let's see. I don't know, this one it's all in 3 except for that insert that goes inside and goes into 2.
So what's that guy's story?
Oh, folk, he's a sort of a Yugoslav Bartok-like person. Although he was, let's see, he wouldn't be living now anymore. Let's see, he was born in 1900, I think, and professor of composition in Belgrade Conservatory for a while. Once there was a Yugoslav orchestra came through here, communist,
Really?
years ago, and I remember that they had a Russian pianist with them. He was very jolly. We got to be friends during the reception, and but he's and the Yugoslavs were real guarded. You couldn't. They were communistic. Oh, they were in enemy territory. You know, they were real careful. And so I had these other pieces by Tajcevic. So, and I couldn't find anything about the composer. So I asked the man who directed the orchestra, a Yugoslav, I said, what is it with Tajcevic? And he said, oh, he teaches at the conservatory. And I said, what other music has he written? Because I liked the things that I played. And he said, well, he hasn't written much. He wrote it. He named something, maybe a sonata or sonatina. And I said, why doesn't he? I'm surprised he hadn't written more. And the man said, oh, he's so lazy, he doesn't write anything. He just teaches, and that's it. So that's all I know about Tajcevic. Well, now this is an impromptu by Schubert, Opus 90, in E flat. He wrote 8 impromptus. 8 impromptus. That was impromptu. He
That'd be nice.
8 of those impromptus and Opus 90, and then 4 Opus 90 and 4 in Opus 142. Let's see, I've got this so I don't have to. Yes, that's a Bronco. Now, there's a slow one over 142, famous. These are all just beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
This one. Then continuing in A flat, we have this last one, I think number 4 in Opus 90. It has a nice, it's like a natural nature. Schubert is close to nature. I think. That's, it makes you think of the brooks and forests.
That's exactly what I was.
I played that once at a funeral.
Really?
This piece. It was someone who liked it. I didn't know, there's no piano music or funerals, not much, except it desperately gloomy stuff. But the family was so grateful. They thought it was, since this was an elderly man who had loved nature and liked to go fishing and do things like that. And when they heard this impromptu, they thought that was exactly what he would have described to him as, is completely in accord with his ideas and feelings. Well, Schubert, let's see, 1780, 97, he only lived about 30 years, 31 years.
Really?
He wrote over 1,000 compositions. He wrote 600 songs and
Wow.
9 or 10 piano pieces, 8 impromptus, a whole lot of music, small stuff, and tremendous number of duets and things like that. He's sort of a bohemian. He was like probably like a hippie in those days. He had nothing practically. He lived with friends, just move around, and they were all liked him. They were so devoted to him. They had musical evenings. They called them Schubertiads. They'd all get together, sing and play and so on. And so he was, that was in Vienna. Of course, 18, he died in 1829, born in 1797.
What did he die of?
Oh, I don't even know. I think he had syphilis, though.
Really?
But I don't know if that killed him, that's such a lingering thing, but probably contributed to it. But they had all sorts of, typhus fever and everything. Not cholera, I don't think Tchaikovsky died of cholera.
I didn't know that.
He drank some unboiled water. There was a plague going on. So anyway, Schubert, something, let's see, there's a quotation which I thought was so good about Schubert. It was something about eternal youth. His music was always had this youthful sort of urgency about it or something. So he must have known somehow that he wouldn't live long because he wrote just furiously. He couldn't, the moment he awoke in the morning, he'd reach for his glasses. He had, I guess, he didn't have such a good sight, but all these melodies, this just occurred to him. I think, you'd in 31 years grow up as a student, and then when you decide you're going to be a musician, if you just copied all the music he wrote, that would be a lifetime's work almost, for 31 years. I don't think I could have copied all that stuff. Mozart the same way. And, well, I don't know, they were so prolific, those composers. Well, that's about, let's see, should I play something more still?
It's up to you.
I don't know how good it'll be with my Clair de Lune. Should I try
Yeah, sure, why not?
Clair, where is, I played through it, but I haven't played it for a long time. And I was thinking I better postpone playing it, but...
Well, we can take a whack at it today.
Where is it? Oh, here.
So how often have you played those Schubert pieces?
Oh, gosh. The first one I played when I was in high school.
Really?
I learned it. in high school and played it. And the second one, I don't know how, I played it a long time. I just learned that because I wanted to. I'm practicing on others,
Mm-hmm.
the impromptus. And see now, I'm playing this and I turn this page. No, I turn it up here and play then. Yeah, okay.
That's beautiful.
It is a beautiful piece.
So, what's the story behind that one?
Oh, I don't know. It's from the suite of Bergamasque. you don't hear other parts of the suite very often. Of course, Claire de Lune is so famous, but Bergen Mask. It's I don't know. I did look that up once and I forgot. It's an antique, a consciously antique, or effort to be to give an antique cast to the. This is brilliant. I don't play. I have. That sort of thing. It's early Debussy. And then this minuet is, I can't play this yet. No. It has a modal antique sound, for example. You know, this the raised fourth. Then the Passe-Pied, that's an old dance, the last movement. Has a sort of perpetual motion. Old dance. It's well, Debussy admired. He admired the early French composers, Couperin and all of those during the time of Louis XIV, antique, ancient regime, and that was all part. He was he was French, of course, but he spent his life being French, you know. He finally signed his late compositions, Claude Debussy, French musician. But, you know, that was the First World War, France. Very proud of being French. They had just had a glorious period of French things, you know, end of the 19th century. They always, I read somebody called Paris the capital of the 19th century, which it kind of was that. Well, I don't know. There were, I think, two great spiritual and aesthetic forces were Vienna and Paris. They both had great empires and had a very advanced civilization, and the music, of course the French were more interested in painting things. That was they had lots of music though, but it was all, in that time it was Viennese, German music, Wagner and all of that. This annoyed Debussy. Well, Debussy was sort of a household pianist for Madame von Meck, who was Tchaikovsky's patroness. And evidently Debussy could read open score Wagnerian operas and sing everything, do everything.
Really?
It was shockingly prolific. Madame von Meck wrote to Tchaikovsky and said, "Here I've got in my household now coming to visit me a little Frenchman." That was Claude Debussy. And his music caused more a great stir. But through his lifetime, he had some very savage criticism aimed at him and so on. And he wrote for a publication too, about music. And he was quite sarcastic about his things he didn't approve of. Let me see. Debussy, what was I going to say? But he was a great champion of Wagner, but then suddenly got tired of it or something and became a bitter critic of Wagner.
Really?
Oh, yes. Well, the whole system of Wagner's opera system irked and cranked Debussy. I mean, he just thought it really wasn't suitable for the French language, which is true. But Wagner had such a great vogue in Paris, and Richard Strauss too.
Mm-hmm.
So they were bombarded, the French, by German music. This annoying Debussy. And of course the French painters were unequaled. I mean, there were no German painters of that period. There were some important ones later, though, the sort of social protest that the German. But the French they knew how to paint pictures. The marvelous Western Europe, the sunlight and everything. It's much, there's a lot more sun shining in France than in Germany.
Yeah.
Or had been in the past. Who knows what it's like now. But anyway, if you ever really see, Debussy's life is very interesting. He was a sort of exclusive and, in his taste and so on. He won that famous award, the Prix de Rome prize. It was a 2-year stipend the French government paid for all kinds of creative artists, painters and everything, musicians, composers though, not pianists, right? Sculptors and so on, to spend 2 years at the Villa Medici in Rome, and just to create things. It was thought, that well, it's still true. I think you have to go to Italy if you want to know things about art or anything like that. So that the Prix de Rome, well, Debussy won that after trying a few times, but he only spent a year there. He couldn't bear being away from Paris and so on, so he just quit that whole thing. Ravel won it too, I think.
Really?
There's an American Prix de Rome too, paid for by the U.S. government. I think so. Really? U.S. government. At least it started out that way. It's hardly ever mentioned, but it's of course the Americans don't live in the Villa Medici. That belongs to France. They live in some other grand palace there in Rome. And so I knew one of the teachers at Illinois, a composer, had gotten a Prix de Rome. He was the Italian heritage, Salvatore Martirano was his name. He was he's very well known all over the world, but you never hear any music by him because it's all electronic and computerized and different things like that.
So what are you doing for your birthday tomorrow?
Oh, I'm celebrating by talking and playing. I'm sitting here all day. Nobody comes over, so you come here. This is my celebration. Oh, I don't know. There's one of the former teachers who used to teach here piano, Cecil O'Teef. Do you know that name? No. He called me up from Ellis. He lives in Dallas. or in Fort Worth, or no, I think Dallas. And he called up and this while ago and said he was in Ellis.
Really?
And so he's going to come. He's going to call me back, and then we'll go out to eat dinner or lunch tomorrow.
Sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm. And I have a bottle of champagne on ice just on general principles.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not a birthday bottle, it'd be something else.
Right.
If nothing else, I just celebrate the sunrise one day or the sunset. You know, I'm glad of it.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
Did you ever see that movie, The Black Orpheus?
I don't think so.
Way back. Oh, it's an awful. You get a headache looking at it. It's so
No,
jittery.
really?
Mm-hmm. It takes place in Rio de Janeiro, and it's by Jean Cocteau. He was a great artist in France, you know. And he made some movies. There's a black singer in it. I guess the real poor people live way up on the cliffs overlooking Buenos Aires. Rio de Janeiro, and so every morning he gets up and he sings when the sun rises, because he thinks that if he didn't do that, there wouldn't be a sunrise. But it's the Orpheus story. He's Orpheus, the old Orpheus story, and he goes to the underworld, which is, I guess, downtown Rio de Janeiro.
Is that right?
I can't remember, but anyway, it's a wonderful film, but it's a historic film, but it's very jittery, you know. It's not very. Oh, well, Cocteau didn't have a real studio or anything.
Right.
He just did improvise everything.
Handheld cameras and everything else.
Yeah. He did this famous legend, The Beauty and the Beast. He had reflected light. He had bed sheets and everything to reflect the light and so on. But it's a great artistic thing.
Huh. Let's see whether they have that online.
Beauty and the Beast, or let's see.
The other one, Black Orpheus.
The Black Orpheus. Yeah, I wonder, that's sort of out of the pool, though.
Right, well, you'd be surprised what you can.
Really?
Yeah, I'll look if I can remember when I get home. I'll look. Well, I have to remember because it's on tape now.
Oh, you're going to look at this again, this tape? Oh.
I think my battery's going to die. I usually charge it up before I come over, and I forgot to. I'm about out of tape, too. I was going to ask you some stuff about chords, but I have a feeling that we're going to run out of battery.
Oh, well, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I bet.
I asked a little kid once, one of my students, what is a chord? And he thought about it. He said, it's a stack of notes. You know, like pancakes.
Right.
I thought that was awfully good.
So it is. Yeah, and arpeggios and things like that. Maybe we'll talk about that next time. I just want to see how you do and get it on tape so I can watch it. Well, I guess that's about it for May 8th, 2008. Before my battery runs dead. I barely have a sliver left. Any last words?
No, not really.
All right. We'll see you next time then.
The words are, is it off now?
It will be in a second.